focusing on immigration, the dynamic seems to be Mitch McConnell is bringing up bills that will supposedly embarrass red state Democrats running for re-election in the Senate. But there's really no way there's going to be a bill that comes out of the Senate that Donald Trump, if we're to believe his veto threats, will sign.
Well, that's right. And of course, that there's the other house as well, which has always been the hang-up on this stuff. And I haven't seen any real action that leads me to believe that the House is ready to, come up with something. So we're still very, very much in limbo. We've been waiting because the last real bit of leverage that the Democrats had was over the budget and, shutting down the government, which they did for a weekend. And that was with the promise that McConnell promised that if you keep the government open, I will allow a DACA bill, some kind of immigration bill to deal with the Dreamers. That was his deal. And, he is saying and has been saying that he will do that, although he's, tapping his foot and saying he's getting impatient. You better get this done. I've got a big agenda here, which is nonsense, but whatever. He's putting pressure on. And as you say, he wants to use this as some kind of a cudgel against the red state Democrats that may feel some kind of pressure on the immigration issue in their states. So, this is, it seems to me, really, honestly, forgetting Trump. I mean, you and I have talked about this a lot as we've gone through this saga over the past few months. That, the idea was that Trump was going to go to Mexico, basically, like Nixon went to China. He was going to be the guy who had the credibility on immigration to be able to go to those hardliners on the right and tell them, look, we have to do this. And that he was going to be on the other side of it. Only Trump could, not be immigrant baited by Trump.
Right.
So that was the idea, that he was going to be this guy who could get this done. Well, I mean, as we've learned, we don't even know what Trump really thinks or understands or believes about anything. And his vaunted negotiation skills were vastly overstated, as we should have seen by his, business career. But nonetheless, that was supposed to be the idea. It was a chance. There's a very slim chance, but it was one that maybe they could get this Dreamers situation straightened out under Donald Trump, because they tried under Obama. And they tried under George W. Bush, and this was just not something they could ever get past these, anti-immigrant wingnuts in the House, and a few in the Senate as well, like Jeff Sessions, who, was one of the ones, and Ted Cruz, who led the charge the last time. So, this is an ongoing problem. It's deep and it's structural within the Republican Party. And as long as they have the majority in the House and actually in the Senate, that they can stop this thing without Trump out there pushing hard to get this done, it was always going to be a long shot. So that's where we sit with this. And, I don't know what will happen. It's, the whole Dreamer situation, even immigration in general. I mean, poll after poll is coming out. People really, it's a very, it's a rump group of Americans, Republicans, hard right people, the allegedly, suffering working class who is not actually competing for jobs with immigrants, that is against this. For the most part, Americans are open. They want the Dreamers to be legalized. They want immigration to be dealt with humanely. They want a comprehensive, immigration program. And, border security, yes, but they're not looking to be cruel and start deporting people, mass numbers of immigrants. And yet, somehow or another, this is where we always come up against this wall. And, I wish I could tell you that I saw a path here, but unless somehow or another Trump is able to pull something out of the hat, and God knows I have no faith that could happen, I just don't see how we're going to end up here. I just don't. I have a feeling this deadline's going to pass, and we're, it's going to pass.
I mean, for DACA recipients, the only saving grace is a temporary one in the form of two different federal courts, basically enjoining the Trump administration from implementing that deadline in March, which of course is a rolling deadline. This is when DACA recipients, if their 2-year application comes up within this period, then they cannot renew. And so people should know, DACA people, by definition, are in the system. They have a Social Security card. It's a special one that's issued via the Department of Homeland Security. But there's no path for citizenship for them. They just are, basically checking in. There was hundreds of thousands who did not sign up for DACA, and they are looking. Their decision seems wiser and wiser as every day goes on, because they are not in the system. Maybe harder to identify by ICE. But I think that, just to speak to your point about where the American public is, it is the case that the majorities of the American public do not want to deport someone who's been here since they were age 17 months old and they've been here for 15, 20 years. Or maybe they have kids, maybe longer than 20 years. They have kids, or they have gone to high school, and that they're Americans. They're Americans all but in paper. But I think Donald Trump has made the assessment that his base is more engaged in this issue than your average American, and they want to be. I don't know how else to describe their impetus. It's sadistic. It is sadistic. They want to punish these people. They want to kick them out. They are wholly uninformed as to what benefits they're supposedly getting and what they're adding to our society. They want to punish them. And I think Donald Trump is feeding his base. And, who knows? That may be a strategy that at the very least keeps the Senate in Republican hands. Maybe it inhibits the opportunities for Democrats.